This was supposed to be the best spring buying and selling season in SoCal since 2022. Mortgage interest rates had just dipped below 6%. Buyers were coming out of hibernation. Sellers were getting ready to list. The market was waking up. Then the bombs dropped at the end of February. Oil prices spiked. War, no war in the Middle East. The global economy looks like it's perpetually 1 week away from coming apart. And yes, those mortgage interest rates are back above 6%. So what did all of this actually do to the housing market? Well, here's what national housing expert Rick Sharga shared with me last week on my podcast, Real Estate Disclosure, about what's happening at the national level.
We've seen home sales decline on a year-over-year basis for 3 months in a row. Again, I'm willing to blame January and February on the weather because I think we would have had better months. March, we got the war and we got rising mortgage rates. But I'm hearing the same thing. April feels a little bit better. And we've had pending sales now 2 months in a row from the National Association of Realtors that have been up month over month. I'm seeing some similar data from Housing Wire on their weekly pending sales index. It could be that we turn the corner a little bit in April. We keep our fingers crossed and see what happens.
So there's the national picture, but the question is, did April actually turn the corner here in Southern California? I rebuilt the entire Southern California housing market report from the ground up to give you that answer. Let me show you what April looked like for SoCal buyers and sellers. Hot new data, cool way to look at it. We have rebuilt the Southern California housing market report from the ground up, and you can even go into light mode if you want. We're sticking with dark. Schedule a call, sign up for the newsletters, you get these delivered, download a PDF of data, and you can still put in the mortgage interest rates. Now you can see it across each of the counties. Cool stuff. We're going to leave that on for a second while we look at what is going on. So we've got pre-COVID data, 2018, 2019. The big dip in 2020 for all the numbers, well, that's when COVID hit. March, kids were out of school. April is when we saw it show up in the data. Mortgage interest rates 2021 at record lows. Things went through the roof. Then things cooled off as mortgage interest rates turned the other way. And we had the war with Ukraine and the Fed started to increase things. Year over year, we're up slightly in Orange County for single family homes, condos, townhomes. For the number of properties sold, up about 1% year over year. Number of properties going under contract, we're up about 5% increase. So we've got buyers out there writing offers. How about new listings? Well, that's where we're down. We're down 15% year over year for new listings. Another cool tool we have built into this that you can take a look at is let's compare where we are pre-COVID. We'll go back to 19's data. And when we run that comparison, we can see that for the number of sold properties, we're off about 29%. We're down number of properties going under contract 35%, and we're down about 40% in listings. How about that peak that we had in 2021? How does it compare? Even more perspective. We're down for sold properties about 47%, 43% for properties going under contract, and down 32%. So fun new ways to compare the data and get context and perspective. Let's keep on trucking. Let's move through the different counties that we cover, and we're looking at year over year down for properties sold, about a 5% decrease. Properties going up year over year. We do have a decrease in the mortgage interest rate. So if you're out there writing offers, the rates are better this year than last. So we see about 2% more buyers writing offers in LA. New listings, similar tale where we're down year over year. Riverside, we are down for sold properties. We are pretty flat for the number of properties going under contract. You can see that since 2023, it has been very flat. This has been the bottom of the market for closed and pending sales. And then new listings, that's seller confidence. Because of what's going on in the world between the stock market and oil prices, everything going on, there's less seller confidence, and that's what's showing up in the number of new listings. So theoretically, with the same number of pending sales roughly year over year, and we have the listings dropping, it's actually theoretically more of a seller's market, just less choice out there for buyers. Moving to San Bernardino, we could see down about 6%. We're down for sold properties. We're up for properties going into escrows. And then new listings, similar tale, down. Ventura, what are you up to, my friend? Sold, actually up almost 10%, just over 9. In escrow, down. New listings down. So the number of properties going under contract, that is down. Ventura always marches to its own drummer. And finally, San Diego, where sold properties down slightly. Escrow's up 14%. That's a big increase year over year. We're down 10% for new listings. Pretty cool, huh? Cool way to look at the data. And again, you can toggle the mortgage rates on and off, and you can look at individual data points as well. If you want to look closer, I encourage you to sign up for the newsletter to be able to play with the data. Moving on to multifamily. One of the only places you're going to get the multifamily data in Southern California is right here. Same data, same chart. You can play around with it. Mortgage interest rates. As mortgage interest rates have gone up, that debt service is eating into monthly cash flow. So that is making it tougher for properties to pencil. We have seen a change in cap rates. Let's take a look at the number of properties selling, down 30% in Orange County for number of properties selling, but up for properties going under contract about 8%. New listings, we're seeing that trend continue where there's not as much seller confidence, not putting properties on the market. Let's see how this compares. So last year was actually a peak for new listings. Let's see how this compares to 2021 when we had record low mortgage interest rates. So we're number of properties sold is off 50%, escrow's off 45% from then, and new listings off 20%. So LA to me is bucking a trend that we've been seeing. So number of sold, that's down about 9%, but the buyers writing offers, we have a 25% increase year over year. Even with LA and its difficulties for landlords, including not being able to increase rents very high under RSO, increases insurance costs, all the tough challenges for landlords, there's people out there writing offers. In fact, this is the highest level since 2022. And new listings are down slightly as well. So very crazy to me, and why you got to keep watching this. Got to see what's happening month by month in the respective areas. Riverside, we are down for number of properties sold, about 70% decrease. That's a big drop. In escrow, down, number of new listings down. So seeing a decrease. So while we saw an increase in LA, it's crazy to me we're seeing a decrease in Riverside. It tends to be a better market for investors, more affordable. Sun Berdue and Riverside often run in similar patterns, I've noticed, and we can see they're somewhat similar here. Down across the board for sold and escrow new listings. It sounds obvious, don't forget it. Number of properties under contract going into escrow, that's going to turn into future sold numbers. So if you're down with the number of properties going under contract, that means it's going to be down in the future for a number of properties sold. And then 2021 with our record low interest rates, we're off about 60% for sold and escrow properties. New listings about 40%. Ventura, you barely got enough properties to even count. You had 2 that sold in April. That's down 60%, but the numbers fluctuate highly when you have so few. 3 in escrow, new listings down. Not much going on. We just include them so they don't feel left out. San Diego, what do we got? We have sold properties down slightly, an increase there. So seeing an increase in LA and San Diego for the number of properties going under contract. New listings down as well. There it is. Okay, quick pause before we move on. The headlines will tell you the market's up or the market's down. You can't make a decision with this. What actually matters is your county, your zip code, your neighborhood, where your property sits, and whether the right move for you right now is to buy, sell, hold, or rent it out and wait. That's the conversation worth having, and it's the one that most people don't know who to trust with. Link below. It's time for median home price madness, madness, madness. Here we go. Looking at single family homes in Orange County, LA, and Riverside. First, what's going on month over month? Well, this is the time of year where we typically see increases. As we've talked about many times in the past, you peak in June or July. It goes down through the holidays. It turns around in the spring buying, selling season. All bets are off this spring buying, selling season. We are seeing for single family homes that it is up month over month for OC, LA, and Riverside is down ever so slightly, so relatively flat. Now, how about year over year? That's where things are getting interesting yet again, my friends. So for single family homes, OC, the median home price in Orange County for a single family home is now $1.45. That's a lot of money for a house. And that is 3.6% year over year increase. LA 2.3%. Riverside's down 0.4% year over year. So a slight decrease. You factor in inflation, that's a little bit bigger. Condos and townhomes, how we looking month over month? Same thing. We should should see an increase, and we do, except for Riverside, where it's down. Look at that big peak in OC we had in the median home price back in November. That was atypical. We talked about that then. And then year over year for condos and townhomes, OC up 1.9%, LA pretty flat, 0.1% positive. And then Riverside, it's zero. So no change year over year. You factor in inflation to those numbers, slight loss in many cases, but still better than when we have the negative numbers, which we've talked about before. And more median home price madness. I won't do it this time. We're up, and we could see San Bernardino, Ventura, San Diego all up month over month. No surprise, should be. Now, how about year over year? San Bernardino flat, 0%. Ventura's up 3.3. That's slightly better than inflation, right? And San Diego's better than inflation at 4.3%, depending on what numbers you're using for inflation. So there aren't any negative numbers for the single family homes. Let's see what it looks like for condos and townhomes. And we're up month over month for the condos and townhomes in these counties, but things are slightly different here for condos and townhomes. When we look at the year over year numbers, San Bernardino down 4.5%, Ventura negative 5.1. That hurts. You add in inflation. San Diego pretty flat, 0.8%. Positive year over year. Got to keep tracking. Looks like potentially median home prices are increasing in this spring buying selling season. Taking a quick run through Altos research reports. Let me know if you want me to keep the Altos research reports. I actually spend quite a bit of money on having this data, and if you're not loving it as much as I'm loving it, there's no reason for me to keep paying for it. So let me know in the comments below. What we're looking at right now is the whole state of California, and I want to look at median days on market because that is showing us how things compare to years past for people who are out there shopping right now. Well, we could see for the entire state that it is almost identical to last year at this time. It was busier in years past, but year over year it's the same, 42 days for the whole spectrum of homes for sale. New versus absorbed, we can see that in every case we're finding more homes absorbed than new homes coming to the market. When that flops, that means it's slowing, but this is pretty typical for this time of year. Even with the craziness out there, people are out there shopping. We're going to zoom in now to countywide data, and if you subscribe, you can go down to zip or city as well. Okay, looking at Orange County, we are the same year over year for days on market. It is 35, and I've gone with median days on market because that gets rid of some of the fluctuations that you find with average, gets rid of the top and the bottom. And then new versus absorbed, no shocker here. We're seeing more absorbed, and you can see too when you look at the different quartiles what things are looking like from the number of days on market. So for the bottom of the market in Orange County, which the median home price for this lowest quartile is $1,089,000, 21 days. LA, similar tale. Nothing new here. Same year over year. Looks the same for number of days on market across the entire spectrum of homes for sale. New versus absorbed, similar tale, about 38 days at the bottom, next quartile, 35 days. By the way, you see the difference between LA and Orange County there? Just as we saw in median home price, that lowest quartile, the median price, $659, is almost half of where the lowest is in Orange County. And this is for single family homes. Again, subscribers get condo data they can click on in here. I'm only showing you single family homes. Riverside's an outlier where we're seeing a slight increase year over year in the median days on market, almost a week for the entire market. But same thing, new versus absorbed, no imbalance here. The top of the market's taking the longest to sell. The next is the bottom of the market. The middle is moving at the same speed. Funny when that happens. San Bernardino, about the same year over year, new versus absorbed, nothing new here. Interesting to see in San Bernardino, top half of the market is moving faster than the bottom of the market. Ventura, slight increase, about a week longer to sell right now. New versus absorbed, we actually do see one outlier here. The top of the market there were 14 absorbed, 17 new. So that's a flip that we normally don't see this time of year. Got to keep watching. San Diego, year over year, same, median 35 days on market. Interesting to look at the quartiles though. New versus absorbed for the top, very close. We flipped for the next quartile. Then the third quartile down, remember, we're going from the most expensive to the least expensive. Those are pretty close numbers. And interesting to see the middle of the market there taking the shortest amount of time to sell. So that's it. That's April. The spring buying and selling season has not been what most of us hoped for. Let us know in the comments below what you were hoping that spring of 2026 would look like. Are you digging the data in this SoCal housing market report? Well, we did the same thing for all of SoCal's foreclosure data. Learn why you should be tracking foreclosures. And yes, again, you can hear from Rick Sharga. He will share where the real pain is concentrated nationally. It's not where you think. Check it out in this next video right here.